Bruce King. Welcome to Sweden.
Thank you for that very warm welcome. How many of you here would really like to double your sales in the next 3 to 6 months, or maybe a lot sooner? Raise your hands, please. Good. We're in the right place. Truthfully, how many of you really believe you can double your sales in the next 3 to 6 months, or maybe a lot sooner? Raise your hands, please. Thank you. And how many of you are not going to raise your hands no matter what I ask you? You've all heard the expression, I'm sure, if you carry on doing things the way you've always done them, the best you are going to get are the same results. I'm sure most of you are very successful here already. It's my belief that most of you haven't even scratched the surface of what you are really capable of. How about the word try? How many of you here had must try harder on your school report? Yes? From a very early age, you associate the word try with failure. So when you take your clothes into a dry cleaner and say, can I have them back at 2 o'clock this afternoon, please? And they say, I'll try, you don't expect to get them back. I need a volunteer to help me demonstrate this. You're going to be taking a risk because you're going to be coming up here and you don't know what's going to happen. You'll be stepping out of your comfort zone probably because you haven't stood in front of 800 people before. But I promise you, whoever volunteers is going to feel fantastic afterwards. Come on then. Thank you so much. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little test together. It's based on something called applied kinesiology. It's semi-scientific. It's used by chiropractors, homeopaths. And what we are going to test with Gunnarsson is we're going to test the strength of his arm under different situations. Hold your arm out in front of you like that. And when I say hold, I want you to stop me pushing it down. You okay with that? I'm just resting here for balance. So as hard as you possibly can and hold. I can't move that arm. Thank you. Yeah. This is a silly cartoon of a salesperson whose sales have plummeted, hasn't got a clue what to do about it. I call him Mr. Negative. It's just a picture. So hold your arm out again, and this time I want you to look at the picture. You can just catch it in the corner of your eye, and as hard as you possibly can, still focus on resisting my downward movement, but look at Mr. Negative. You ready? And hold. That just went, didn't it? Now what we're going to do, hold it out again, but this time I want you to imagine there's a steel rod coming out of the end of your arm. It's a very long steel rod. It's going right towards that back wall, and it's embedded in it. So it's totally and utterly immovable. Yes? Still look at Mr. Negative, but remember you've got a rod there. And as hard as you possibly can again, and hold. And that is much, much stronger than the first time, wasn't it? Yeah. Fantastic. Somebody once said to me, Bruce, you have 2 choices in life. You can either be a bit part player, an extra in somebody else's dream, or you can be the star of your own. If you want to be the star of your own, you need to have very clearly defined goals. The mind cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. We had a demonstration earlier with Gunnarsson. His mind thought there was a steel rod coming out of the end of his arm, embedded in that wall over there, and his arm went like steel. It was immovable. There was no rod there. The mind can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. There are no limits. The only limits we have as human beings are the limits that we impose upon ourselves or allow others to impose upon us. People buy for emotional reasons, and they sometimes, just sometimes, need logical reasons to justify their decision. and you've all done this. You've all been out and you have all bought all sorts of things for emotional reasons, because you wanted them. Not because you needed them, because you wanted them. Pain is a far greater motivator for people to purchase than pleasure. So from now on, wherever possible, I want you to focus on your customers' pain, where they are hurting, because that is what will get them to buy. So homework is you list every single pain you've ever been able to eliminate for clients. Brainstorm it with your colleagues. Build a list of questions you can ask that can expose that pain. I find that something like 90% of salespeople ask for referrals once the sale's made and they've got a happy, satisfied customer. Could go something like this. Agnes, I really look forward to seeing you. Just one more thing before I hang up. I like to spend most of my time looking after my clients, not looking for them. So I'd really appreciate your help, please. I'd like to make 2 or 3 appointments with some other businesses in your area so I can pop in and introduce myself. Who do you suggest I call? I promise you, nobody will ever cancel an appointment with you because you asked for referrals before you'd even met them. Handling objections. You shouldn't get too many if you've exposed enough pain. But just in case, you shouldn't, really. But just in case, a few quick rules for handling objections. Number 1, how many of you here like to be interrupted when you are speaking? You spent all this time finding them, turning them from a prospect into a potential customer, and all the facts, questions, and the pain finding, and all the other stuff. I understand you think it's expensive, but, or however, let me show you what it did for so-and-so. But and however is argumentative. But and however separate people. Use the word and. I understand you feel it's expensive. And let's just run through those figures again and show you how quickly you're going to get a return on your investment. And. Price objections. I'm sure you get a few of those. Ever so easy to deal with. It's too expensive. Anybody ever said that to you? It's not a question. Get this. It's not a question. It's a statement. So you don't go rushing into reducing your price. You say, which means. Or, so where do we go from here? I said this to somebody the other day. He said, it's too expensive. I said, well, so where do we go from here? Silent close. So where do we go from here? He said, I suppose we'll have to find the money. Closing the sale. There's alternative question closes. There's secondary question closes. There's the silent close, which is the most important one. There's the doorknob close. There's so many different closes. You can read them in sales books. I want to share with you the very best one of all. Let the prospect close the sale. It takes all the pressure off of you. You don't have to go for that close. You're building up to it. Let the prospect close the sale. They now have to make the decision. And there's only one decision they can make. But the pressure's all on them and it's not on you. I want to share with you one final thought. The greatest amongst us are absolutely no different to the rest of us. They simply take a few steps every day and march towards their goals. And the days go by, and the weeks go by, and the months go by, and they suddenly find themselves in a place called extraordinary. So I hope to see you all there. That's it.
Give him a big hand, Mr. Bruce King.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.